You're watching Blunt Politics with Boston Brian.
Go. The night we have all been waiting for has arrived. Let me know you can hear me. Let me know you can see me. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Make sure if you haven't liked the stream that you like it. I think everybody on the planet, again, is online in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to have to fight through the internet issues. But again, exciting night. Real exciting night. I don't necessarily know if it's that exciting, but it's definitely an exciting night. We've been waiting for it. How's everybody doing? Let's say hi to everybody first. Let's say hi to everybody. Let me bring you guys up. Tanya, as always, thank you for your services. Mark P, again, thank you for your services. Michael McAndrews, how you doing? Tiff, how are you? Leah, how are you? Jennifer, what's going on? How's everybody going? Why is my name Gray if I'm the highest tier member? Because that's a great question. I have absolutely no fucking idea. That is a great question. We'll have to figure that one out. Maybe it's because they want you to blend in. They don't want you to stick out and make everybody else feel bad. Maybe it's not. I don't know. How's everybody? All right, thumbs up. People can hear me. People can see me. Shanzi, right off the bat with the $10 super sticker. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. 20K on Midas Touch Network right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody is just dying. But again, I don't know what's going on with CNN. I don't know what's going to happen tonight. We could be on just from 8 to 9, or we could be on the whole shebang. I might just say fuck it, and we'll have to what the guy say? Maybe we'll just have to do it live. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's far too important for the American people to see. They should be able to consume it in any way, shape, or form they see fit, whether that be being restreamed by a YouTuber or watching it live on. Oh, Louis, thank you so much for the 20. Carl, Nick, how's everybody doing? Let's go. Oh, Nick coming in with the $2. I know you're excited. I know. I'm excited too. How are you, Carl? Lokera, Patty, Ms. Mac, Paul, Midas Sherry, Barbie, Spykin, fucking, what's that say? Spherical Man, Arizona Sunflowers, John from Las Vegas. John, where are you from? I'm just kidding. It's just, that's a joke. Leron, let's go. Jay McCoy, Cinnamon, Jennifer, Andrea McCready, let's go. Moms Russo, Brandon, Don C. We get the whole fucking crew in the house. Everybody's excited. I did want to just hop on a little bit early. Sheldon, thank you so much. Hi, Boston Brian. Big night tonight. Yeah, it is absolutely a big night. I'm actually really excited to see how Joe Biden performs. I think he has the knowledge, being a politician for so long and giving up, service to his country. He has the ammunition. He's got enough ammunition in his pocket. Not only 75 gram. Thank you so much for the $20 super sticker. Let's fucking go. Let's go. MJ Daniel, how are you from Washington? How's everybody doing? What was I saying? Slacks. Thank you so much, brother. Love you, Brian and Mel. Love to all my fellow Bryantologists. Thank you so much, Slacks. Appreciate you being here. Annette, thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. Hoping for Biden to be successful tonight. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And like I was saying, CNN is already pissing me off. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I've heard it both. Wow, holy shit, Shanti. Let's go with the $50 super sticker right off the fucking bat. Anyone want to place bets on how long? Let me put it up so it doesn't go anywhere. Anyone want to place bets on how long Sport Leone is going to last? My bet on less than an hour spent with Miss Daniels. There's been speculation. I think I was watching Michael Cohen on Midas Touch. Emily, thank you so much for the Venmo. You guys are fucking fantastic. Again, JD with the $7 super sticker. Let's go. I might not even get words out. I'm just going to have to thank you guys. All right. Anyway, let me get through this. I'm sorry. I will obviously thank everybody at the end of it. And hello to everybody that's just popping in. You're watching Blunt Politics. I'm Boston Brian. Obviously, it's debate night. I'm going to do my best to see what I can and cannot cover. I wanted to come on a little early because there was a video that I was covering at the end of the last show that I kind of ran out of time, that obviously I think is important enough that we could watch we could cover it before the debate starts, and then just kind of hang out. Like I said, I've heard it both ways. I was listening to Sam Cedar, and as far as what I've heard on his stream, he fully intends on streaming it, or at least covering it live. I don't know. I've seen it both ways. So I hate that CNN has put me in a place to agree with Tim Pool and fucking Elon Musk, as far as people being allowed to see this and restream it. Well, we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. I might just say F it. I'm a new channel. I have no strikes or anything like that. So the worst they could do is maybe take it down afterwards, demonetize the video, and give me a strike, which is doesn't matter to me. I'm not in it for the money. So as long as we can cover it live, I think that's what the important part is, in my view. So if we can at least cover it live, and then, if they want to take it down afterwards and give me a strike after the fact, then so be it. You know what I mean? I guess we'll figure it out. We'll see how I feel. We'll see how I feel. I don't know. Maybe I'll be feeling good. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to shelter criminals. Yeah, I have a couple of them up right now. I have MSNBC up, C-SPAN. I know Fox said they were doing it. Strangely, I was on CNN trying to watch live TV on CNN, and that's not something I've done on their website, so maybe you can tell me if this is normal or not, but it said I had like a 10-minute free preview, meaning that I was assuming gonna have to pay after the 10 minutes was up. I don't know what the hell that's all about. I've never seen them. No, Tiffany, you're the best. I just got my pizza, Bob. What kind of pizza? What kind of pizza we talking here? What are we rocking? I don't know why I asked this question, because I'm a plain cheese guy. Actually, strangely enough, I'm either plain cheese or there's a pizza place in the town that has what they call a barbecue, in a black Angus barbecue steak tip, and bacon pizza. And instead of red sauce, they use barbecue sauce, and it is fucking fantastic. Fantastic. Crack. So Bob, what do we got? What do we got? Cheese, you got pepperoni, half cheese, half pepperoni. What are we feeling tonight? We feeling spicy? And let me know how you guys are feeling about tonight. That's what I'm curious. How are you guys feeling about tonight? You excited? You nervous? You got the jitters? You excited but nervous? Are you none of the above? CNN got held took down for 3 days on Twitch for something last year. It just makes no sense to me. A debate, like maybe something that CNN was doing as a documentary or whatever. I don't know. Something that they were doing by themselves on their own. But as far as a friggin' presidential debate, eh, Robin, Tad worried. What are we worried about? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? I just don't like, I mean, I think I was talking about it last show, how we saw um, one of these media watch groups did kind of a study on the relationship that both Biden and Trump have, basically how they've been displayed and portrayed in the media. And it's been a huge disparity going after Biden's, let's say, cognitive blunders, as opposed to going after Donald Trump's continued mental decline with every sentence, even though you can understand the words, do not make fucking sense. Doesn't make any sense. You can understand the words most of the time, unless it's something like, unless it's something like, unless it's anonymous, or maybe oranges. The best part of that is that he goes back in for a double fucking dip, thinking that he can clean it up on the exit. And he just does it again. He just does it again. Or about the time, what did Saudi Arabia and Russia? All right. So maybe not all the time you can understand the words, but most of the time you can understand the words. They're just a jumbled friggin' mess, like, let's see here. What did he say this time? No, you don't hear it. Why would that be? Why would that be? Everything was going fine. Everything was going fine. Let's see here. Does everybody not hear it, or is it just no? Twitch can't hear them. Twitch can't hear them. Okay. So Jimbo must have heard it because he said oranges. Unless it's just he got that from what I said. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to... Well, that's working. I know that's working. Because I can see my voice going, so I know that's working. So it ain't going to be it. So maybe on this one? Audio. No, that's working too. That's a work. Anyway, I don't give a shit. We don't need drops tonight. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. As long as you can hear, let me see, present. As long as you can hear what I'm sharing, that's all I care about. We'll do this one first. Okay, we're going to get into this one. And then I'm going to do, as I say every time, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and a little bit of, make it bigger a little bit. We'll make it fancy. We'll do it fancy. Add the stage. I'm going to make it bigger. I know. Thank you very much. All right, so this is the one that was with the Heritage Foundation guy just blatantly giving the game away on MSNBC. I was instructed to watch it by somebody early on in the stream, and again, it's tough to not only comprehend what's going on at a lot of the times, but to read and establish exactly what somebody is talking about in a chat. Sometimes it's not hard. So, but I did end up even apologizing at the end of the stream to the first person that brought it up because I didn't realize the importance of it. But by the second or third time I saw it in the chat, I realized that it was something that we had to basically go over. So it's 8:13 now. We'll keep our eye on the clock. Hopefully within the next before 9 o'clock, I'll make a decision on whether or not I care about a strike or not. But let's get into this the clip. And
900-plus page presidential transition plan giving Team Trump a detailed blueprint for a potential second term. That blueprint would radically remake the federal government, if executed, with its stated goal being, quote, to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administration.
Again, these are the people using Donald Trump as their vehicle to set forth their conservative mandates. Again, another reason why I say that Trumpism does not die, or what we consider Trumpism, the conservative nut jobs that want to turn this into a white nationalist country, a Christo-fascist, authoritarian, the nightmare of a nation for minorities and women and LGBTQIA members and the like. These are the people that are behind basically all the shitty things that we think about when we think about Trump and we think about the GOP and the nonsense that we've had to endure in the last 7-8 years.
Administrative state. The project is built on 4 pillars, which go well beyond previous transition efforts. There's the policy agenda, personnel, training, and a 180-day plan.
Oh, I also just want to throw around the idea of leaving the chat open during the debate. If for some reason they don't allow me to put it on screen, I could probably have it playing on the TV here, and you guys could at least hear it and have the chat open to discuss and debate and converse about whatever's going on in the debate in real time, just to kind of give you a place. I don't know. I why they make it so fucking difficult. Hi, Teresa. How are you? Appreciate you stopping by. Terpy, thank you for your services, my friend. Great chatting with you. Nina, Vicky, Mende, how are you? Amanda, how are you? MK, let's go. Loquera, Olga Martinez, let's go. How are you? Is that to somebody in the chat? Who's got the pretty eyes? Because it looks really dark in here again. I don't know. Again, if I had any more lights in here, I'd burn the place down, which I don't want to do. So, anyways, El Rondo, how are you? Softball Paul, Annette, Anthony, Tony, Alyosha, let's go, big guy. What's happening, my friend? How's everybody doing? All right, let's get back into this so we don't run out of time.
Playbook to execute the think tank's plans. Many authors of the blueprint are former Trump officials. Joining us now, one of the architects of Project 2025, the president of the Heritage Foundation, Dr. Kevin Roberts. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Roberts. Thank you for joining us and coming. I know people are like, y'all got the architect of the 2025? Yes, because everyone has been talking about it.
And can we talk about how brazen and how much balls it takes for this guy to step up to go on any network, let alone MSNBC, to spew this vile nonsense, this is how comfortable this guy thinks he is in today's society, that he can go on not only just any television show at all, but on MSNBC's weekend show to get this out.
And we saw an interview that you did with the Associated Press, and we've been reading through some things. And I think we just want to first start with anchoring this conversation in. You told the New York Times that this plan is a plan that is for anyone. It's not just for Donald Trump. You would like.
Hold on. Good question. Good question. Annette says, why are they giving the Heritage guy a platform? I think this is very, very important for us to put a face, for us to put a spotlight on the Heritage Foundation in what they support and the things that they want to turn this country into. Again, a lot of the people aren't as politically involved as, say 75, 80% of the chat are, just sucking in the news like it's going out of style. A lot of them don't know. I mean, even a lot of the heavily politically involved people don't know that the political establishment like the Heritage Foundation and other organizations like them are really pulling the strings behind the scenes with Supreme Court justices, with donating to certain candidates in putting forth certain legislation. These are the people that behind the scenes literally feed the GOP and the Senate and the Republicans their agenda in what they want to go through. So shining a light on it, I think, is very important. Especially on this platform where, they have the knowledge and the ability to push back and ask the right questions and, really put a spotlight on how crazy and out of touch their beliefs are. What's up? Atrocious. Hold on. Fuck. Never get it in the first try. Atrocious at every game. Oh, man, that would definitely be mine. That would definitely be my handle if I still played video games. Love them. Just only a few of them am I good at. Only a few of them. Other than that, and what the hell am I saying? I don't know. I haven't had a fucking video game controller in my hand in 25 years.
Like if President Biden would implement some of it, but you don't think that that's going to happen. And so you reject the assertion that this is a plan that was cooked up specifically for the second coming of the Trump administration.
I appreciate that question because as your lobby shows when you walk in, you've got the word honesty and the word accuracy there. And that's an honest and accurate depiction. And I'm grateful. Number one, the Heritage Foundation couldn't do that because we are nonpartisan. We can't be tied to one candidate. Secondly,
again, I think we got through at least the first several minutes of this, but I just wanted to go over the first couple again. What he just said. Let's remind ourselves what he just said.
Foundation couldn't do that because we are nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan, and then let's just listen to what he spews in the rest of the interview.
Can't be tied to one candidate. Secondly, we have offered a briefing of Project 2025.
And I believe she does point out that the Heritage Foundation does also have a super PAC or just a PAC, or one of the two, where they are allowed to back certain specific, certain political candidates. So he's kind of towing both sides of the line and not being truthful whatsoever.
Dating back to last year, to every candidate for presidency, including President Biden. Honest to goodness, I would have been thrilled if President Biden and his team asked for a briefing. We understand that we have differences of opinion on just about everything. But at Heritage, we believe in telling the truth with a smile on our face. But
no, I think the word you're searching for was lies. I think you're good at telling lies with a smile on your face.
Last point I should make is that now that President Trump is the nominee and President Biden has...
Don't jump the gun here, Susie. Don't jump the gun there, Susie. Hasn't exactly got the nomination yet.
Not taken a Project 2025 briefing. President Trump is going to make decisions about policy in his administration if he wins. Project 2025 is something that's going to transcend the next 4 years, the next 10 years. It really is, for the first time in the history of the conservative movement, the apparatus for policy and personnel. That's the most important thing to remember.
I have one follow-up. It's just that you have said that this plan is about institutionalizing Trumpism. So, because I also know you all, not just
nonpartisan. I am nonpartisan, but my aim and objective is to what? What was that again?
Institutionalizing Trumpism.
Institutionalize Trumpism. Let's see here. nonpartisan, institutionalized Trumpism. No, no. See, that doesn't compute. That doesn't compute. I have an error on my error on my calculator there. That's not computing.
So, because I also know you all, not just the president of the Heritage Foundation, you're also president of the Heritage Action, which is the Political Action Committee. And
Political Action Committee. Political Action Committee.
So, is it tied to Trump or not?
I said the context for that comment to the New York Times was that the work of the Heritage Foundation was to institutionalize Trumpism. Trumpism.
Yeah, that's exactly what she just said to you, literally verbatim, word for word, what she just said. I don't know why you felt the need to repeat it, but please, can you answer the question without, entirely repeating everything she said?
As a new version of conservatism, a conservatism that recognizes that by every objective measure, the United States is weaker in 2024 than it was in 1984. We also happen to think that's reversible, by the way. We're ultimately optimists. And by institutionalizing Trumpism, what we're saying is that even though we are known as Ronald Reagan's think tank, I'm a son of the Reagan Revolution, I'm very proud of that.
Stink tank.
That's 40 years ago, and we need to understand what time it is in America. And it
is. We need to know how much, we need to recognize how much society has progressed, which is exactly why we want to bring everybody back to 1833, which I think would be a perfect jumping off point to maybe just start this whole thing again. I think we've kind of petered out and we've come to the end, so why not just start over? We'll strip women of the rights to vote. We'll make black people a third of a person again. We'll make it legal to own other people. What else could we do? There's just so much we could do. And then from there, we could build upon our society and then see where who knows? Maybe we could get to like a Back to the Future place by 1985 again if we start at 1860. Anyways, we want to bring everybody back to like really far back.
Right now, Donald Trump,
What's up, Salty? What's up, brother? Agent 00, what's happening? Issues, Bunny, Paul, Donald, Deb, Gerald, how are you? Appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Nina Crinkles, that's just a good name. Seth, what's up, brother? Edward, how are you? Jorge's in the house. Blues Living, how are you? Who else we got? Bobby Music, it's a Bobby world. All right, no more singing. That's not what you came for.
Someone likes it or not, I happen to like it, is the standard bearer for conservatism.
Well, Michael, what time is it?
I don't think it's time for Trumpism in that regard, because one of the things that as a lifelong follower and participant in Heritage, having spoken at various times there in the roles that I've played in the party, I see this as a dramatic shift away from those Reagan-esque principles when you have someone like Trump who has advocated some of the things he has. But before we get to that, I want to get to the nub of this, because you can't really do anything until you remove what has been identified as the problem, and that is 50,000 federal employees.
Again, I think we got at least to this point last time. Just the thought of thinking that you could just go ahead and just wipe out and remove 50,000 federal employees the moment you take office and expect to fill that void with, I don't know, I think he said he's taken somewhere in the several thousand resumes, whatever they've been looking at, the crazies that have been sending in their resumes to become, political appointees and government officials and such. It's mind-bogglingly stupid to think that this country would in any way, shape, or form be better off in again, not collapse totally when you just remove the people that are integral for keeping this nation going.
Axios quoted, noted, quote, "The massive headhunting quest aims to recruit 20,000 people to serve in the next administration as a down payment on 4,000 presidential appointments plus potential replacements for as many as 50,000 federal workers."
The massive headhunting quest aims to recruit 20,000 people to serve in the next administration as a down payment on 4,000 presidential appointments plus potential replacements. Hold on. For as many as 50,000 federal workers. So recruit 20,000. Again, how do those numbers add up? and even if you take their word for it, they're willing to recruit 20,000. Of course, all 20,000 aren't going to be picked. That's just how many you're recruiting. So from that pool, you obviously whittle it down to a much smaller number to fill as many as 50,000 vacancies for federal workers who are policy adjacent, which means you don't agree with either one or all of the policies of the president of the United States, which means basically the federal government would then be just one big political arm of the president. In again, just another way where they're attempting to give him complete and in outright authority and power over our Constitution and this nation. So blatant right there. I'd love to see how he answers this one.
Who are policy adjacent, as Trumpers put it. Policy adjacent to what? I mean, you're talking about people who've been in federal government. My daddy was a federal government employee, so I would be really appalled thinking that he could be on someone's chopping block because they think he is part of some deep state effort. Talk to us about what that looks like. If Heritage is calling for removing 50,000 federal employees, who are you replacing them with? And where do they come from? I mean, even if it's not 50,000, if it's 10,000, if it's 2,000, where are they coming from, and who are you replacing them with? Because
don't worry about it. They have that covered because they have this whole system set up. It's basically an offshoot of Truth Social, where the craziest of the craziest motherfuckers basically send in their resume to, I don't know, people like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, people like that who are just perfect at picking really neutral, open-minded, nonpartisan people to run our government the way they should be.
I suspect a lot of those people you're talking about have been in the federal service for a long time and have served not just Republican administrations, but also Democratic administrations, et cetera.
They have. And 95% of them who give political contributions give them to the Democratic Party. I reject out of hand, Michael, that somehow
you're going to fire someone because they wrote a check to a Democratic candidate.
No, we're going to fire someone, and the number needs to be more than 50,000.
More than 50,000. Okay, because 50,000 is not enough, guys. 50,000 is not enough. And then what does it tell you if you could find that many people that have donated to Democratic causes in the federal government? Should show you that deep state that everybody seems to think exists really doesn't. That, you know, the people that work in our federal government, you know, the people that are the backbone, so to speak, the ones that aren't out in front of the cameras, the ones that are behind the scenes, just making our country work. Maybe they do care about our country. Maybe they do care about our elections. Maybe they do care about the freedoms of men, women, and children, and people of color, and trans people, and LGBTQIA members, and, you know, just really want this place to be as good a nation as it possibly can be. I don't know. Sounds like a lot to ask to me.
Considering that there are more than 2 million federal employees, because over the last century, the radical left has seen the administrative state as the fourth branch of government. They're unelected bureaucrats. Nothing against your dad, obviously, a human being. You know that about me and Heritage. But
yeah, we're talking about everybody else, not you, so to speak. We're not really talking about you. It's the other guys. It's not you, or your dad. Your dad is probably a great guy. It's just those other assholes.
Ultimately, we have to devolve power from the imperial city of Washington back to the people.
Because he wrote a check to a Democratic candidate without any appreciation or understanding where his political allegiance.
We will dramatically reform agencies that take rights away from people.
Why does that matter?
They're doing their job about a mission that's misaligned. For example, the U.S. Department of Education. Thankfully, President Trump deserves credit for saying that he wants to end the Department of Education.
Again, national television giving Donald Trump credit for saying he wants to end the Department of Education, but we're supposed to somehow take him at his face value that he's a nonpartisan actor in this whole situation.
That means that employees in that agency, even if they've been serving that mission with great competence, will have to go look for another job. What's more important than that, Michael, is that we actually have a delivery mechanism for education in this country that reflects the 21st century. So at Heritage, we see this a very different way. You want to look at it from the lens of unelected bureaucrats, most of whom, not your dad, I guess, who want to say that.
Again, not your dad, who I'm sure was fucking fantastic.
they are more important than the everyday American. We want to look at it from the standpoint of the everyday American and say it's time that they are put in the driver's seat rather than unelected bureaucrats.
Yeah, but they aren't going to be in the driver's seat because they aren't going to be doing the jobs. The folks you're identifying who are Trump aligned are the ones who are going to be coming in.
You are positing that those people are incompetent, and I can tell you.
So notice how he didn't actually dispute that they were all going to be Trump aligned. What he had a problem with was the insinuation that if they were all Trump aligned, that somehow they would be incompetent. Again, thus shooting down his claim of nonpartisanship or, being neutral in this endeavor in any way, shape, or form.
From looking at the resumes of the 11.
This kind of looks like Stephen Miller's uncle. Never mind. I don't want to get
they're very well
as
qualified.
much as you're thinking I'm positing these people are incompetent, you're positing that they're somehow in.
Does anybody have a preference on what site I try to watch the coverage on? If we do get that far?
Executing a nefarious agenda.
Some of them are. Why does the Environmental Protection Agency have 300?
Have you identified them?
If I could interject, because I did actually work for the federal government. I worked with a number, as did the chairman, and I worked with a number of those we call them civil servants in the United States government, people who are not political appointees, and they have the institutional knowledge.
If only they acted that way.
Well, I think Alicia has a question along those lines about one of the policy priorities that you all.
Now, is that just on Twitch, Robin, that you've seen that? I wonder if I go to.
I've identified in Project 2025.
I actually, Dr. Roberts, have a question about this upcoming election. Is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 presidential election?
I believe that Dr. Roberts can't hear. So,
well,
Alicia just asked, is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 election, regardless of the outcome?
Yes, if there isn't massive fraud like there was in 2020.
Wait, hold on. I'm confused. I thought Midas Touch wasn't allowed to stream the debate. First presidential debate, or are they just doing pre stuff? I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. I don't know. Let's see. I want to check majority report because they said they were doing it. So I'm dying to see if they're doing it. They are not live as far as I can see. I'm confused by the whole thing. I really am, guys. I really am. Can you see Midas feed? I can. Yeah, they were on a commercial. I can see Midas feed. Let me go to home. Let's see if I can bring it up for you. Share this tab instead.
Or carbs.
I don't know.
And gives you tailored stress management. That's why I love it. All you have to do is you breathe into your.
So yeah, that's. But I don't know if they're just doing pre-coverage or if they're doing the debate itself, because would it make sense if somebody else is streaming the debate to maybe just stream them doing it? So my channel, you know what I mean? Wouldn't they take the hit for doing it? Not saying anybody's taking a hit, but I don't know. Maybe that's one way to do it. Midas is just doing a prequel, so they're just kind of just doing. I see them on Twitch pre-coverage. Okay, so let me get out of this. Let me go back to this one because we only got so much time left. Share this tab instead, and we'll continue with this.
20.
What does that mean?
If there isn't massive fraud.
Do you believe that there was not massive fraud?
There was massive fraud. We have an election fraud database that has documented.
Again, going on MSNBC with zero evidence to support his claims. He's asked the question, are you going to accept the outcome of the 2024 election? And his claim is yes, if there is not major fraud, which he couldn't prove in the last election, but somehow thinks he might be able to prove it. I don't understand. But again, none of this makes any sense. I'm glad he's outing himself. I'm glad he did it on this network so the right people can see what's going on. But again, just blatant and outright election denialism and horseshit basically coming from this guy.
Implemented that over years. By the way, the Heritage Foundation has been concerned about election integrity for decades, not just about 2020. We've been documenting this problem for a very long time. And if one of the
I believe, according to the Heritage Foundation, sir, there by your count, Heritage Foundation has done an investigation, and according to your count, there have been 1,513 proven instances of voter fraud across the United States since 1982.
I love that. I love that so much. Sounds like such a big number until she hits you with the since 1982.
Yeah, that's probably
1,500.
And that's according to their numbers, by the way. The Heritage Foundation's own numbers. That's according to them.
Because they're very hard to document. And the Democrat Party is very good at fraud. The key thing here, which I think we would both agree on, is that we aspire at the Heritage Foundation to seeing a poll after this election where every American believes their vote was counted. I care as deeply about someone on the political left with whom I disagree, saying that they have confidence in the outcome of the election. It seems, rather than turn this into a partisan conversation, which you do a good job of at MSNBC, we might say we aspire to something more noble, which is that every...
Ooh, good dig. Good dig. We turned it into a partisan conversation after this asshole just got done through saying he wants to institutionalize Trumpism. But dude, go on.
American believes their vote counts.
I mean, I don't think it's partisan to ask if you will accept the results of the election. Alicia, I don't know if can you hear Alicia now?
Yeah,
Alicia, do you have another question?
I can hear. I do have another question. I'm specifically interested as it relates, Dr. Roberts, to the deportation of immigrants in this country, just understanding sort of how it is going to work when we talk about folks on the interior, how you see a future administration utilizing the National Guard, ICE, police forces to deport something like 11 million people.
Could you hear?
Yeah.
So she is asking about immigration and how you see immigration, how in this plan, how you talk about using like the National Guard to deport individuals. Like what is the, Alicia, and do tell me if I am adequately
people on the interior specifically.
People on the interior specifically, not people in the border, people within this country.
Well, first of all, we need to close the border. And secondly, we need to have the biggest mass deportation system ever in the history of America. Because
again, asshole. Please try not to have to repeat the entire question so you could form your answer in your head in that little fucking span of time. The question was, how is that going to look? We get it. We like, please, just how are you going to pull that off?
Because it is unjust and illegal and evil that more than 10 million illegal aliens have come to this country. It's imperative that.
Is it 5 million? Is it 10 million? Is it 18 million? Is it more than 20 million? You guys just cannot get your fucking stories right. You guys used to be good at this shit. Good Lord. It would be more convincing if you all said the same fucking thing. But not that I want to give you any pointers.
We send those people back, invite them back to come through the legal system. We love immigrants at Heritage, but we also love the rule of law.
So how do you plan to carry that out?
Well,
are you talking?
Again, none of what he just said answered in any way, shape, or form any part of the question that was asked.
About going door to door, because that's what I mean, I could read from the plan, but I think
the first thing is that there's going to be a lot of self-deportation. The interesting thing is,
yes. Again, see it all the time, folks. You see it all the time. Those ever prevalent self-deportations where people just one day get sick of living in the freest, most prosperous country on earth, and they just one day decide to pack their bags and remove themselves from this country, saving the Border Patrol and the DEA and ICE and everybody else the hard work of finding them, the years that they could probably live out a normal everyday existence. In the meantime, they want to save the police officers that trouble, and they just pack their bags and walk into a much worse situation. Basically what they say is, I'm so sick of this job that I have with the 401k that is killing it because of Joe Biden. I am really sick of owning my own vehicle. I am so sick I am just so sick of living in this rather nice neighborhood that is so much nicer than anything that I came from, so much safer than any place I came from. I think I might trek all the way back there after spending every penny I had and basically giving up everything I own in order to make it here in the first place. See it all the time, folks. The self-deportation.
No doubt know, is that simply talking about this and beginning to implement a plan, and President Trump deserves a lot of credit for talking about this, causes people to say, I don't want to run the risk of being arrested for doing something illegal. But secondly, there are great plans using the Department of Homeland Security to return these people back to south of the border. The great thing is, even a majority of people on the political left agree with this because
no, I love when they say that, and it's the farthest thing from the truth.
they see the damage that this has done.
Before we go,
I think we want to take a couple more minutes,
yeah,
and so I
I'm
know
just
we're being
gonna
told to
ask you
wrap, but
real
we want to take a few more minutes.
I'll stay as long as you want.
No. Just ask you real quick. So, what do these people do? What are they doing now?
Which people?
I'll stay here as long as you like. That guy over there is holding my white hood, safe and sound. So I am in no danger of in any way, getting it dirty. So we could hang here all night. You got that hood, right? Is the cross still burning? No. See, if the cross has been put out, he's holding my hood. We're all good. So let's continue.
The folks, the 11 million, 20 million, whatever you want to deport.
A lot of them are committing crimes like murdering the 12-year-old girl in Houston. In fact,
So that's
we're very
one. That's
concerned about that.
one out of 11 million. What is?
We
what
can
is
take the
actual-
remaining time of the segment, and I can give you a lot
In
of examples.
Texas,
of this.
undocumented immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime.
Oh, yes. And then they hit him with the facts. I'm sorry. Receipts, anybody? This one, I hope it's like a fucking CVS receipt and it just never ends. Because, again, white people, again, statistically commit crimes at a much higher rate than any of the nationalities that they bring up on a daily basis on the right. So hit them with it.
Undocumented immigrants, and according to a survey, University of California Riverside study, 33% less likely to be in prison as of 2021.
Young lady killed in
I'm just
Georgia.
giving the numbers.
The survivors.
Well, what do you tell the parents of those people, those young girls who were killed? This is,
I mean,
the preponderance of these people, Michael, are male.
But what is the difference between an illegal immigrant who unfortunately engages in that activity?
And we don't like that. I want to be clear. We don't use the term illegal. So
we don't.
Undocumented individuals.
That's sweet. They're illegal aliens.
Undocumented individuals versus.
You see the look? You see the look she threw him?
That's sweet. They're illegal aliens.
Undocumented individuals versus anyone else who commits the same crime. Well, I mean, so what you're saying is because
again, right? What they're doing is they're singling out and making up and picking any headline they possibly can pull from that could possibly corroborate anything they're saying, whether it's a Spanish-sounding headline. I mean, again, has anybody done the homework on their claims of the people that have committed these crimes actually coming into this country during Joe Biden's presidency? Or have they actually done the homework to see what policy was actually the responsible for this person coming into the country? Or was it because Donald Trump allowed Venezuelans that signed something, I believe was on his last day or in his last several days in office, giving amnesty to, I believe it was Venezuelans. So again, do we know who was responsible directly for this? I don't think anybody knows, but again, it's they're using it as a cudgel, as a talking point, because they know the more they say it, the more people will tend to believe it. And it's not like anybody's really doing the homework to, they're not saying names, they're just giving generalizations. It's ridiculous.
Because you have this instance of individuals behaving badly, that's a reflection of every individual in that community, and that's just not the case.
No, what is the case is that because the preponderance.
I mean, what percentage of those people, the 11 million that you want to
answer your question.
I just want to clarify my question. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do. What percentage of those individuals that you want to get rid of, move out of the country, actually commit crimes?
Our analysis in Texas, Georgia, and New York shows that a preponderance of the illegals who have come in.
I don't know.
A preponderance. Okay, we're talking stats here, brother. Specific numbers would help.
What's that number?
Are unattached male, and there are unattached males, and the disproportionate number of them are people who are not even making any attempt to be legal.
But what is that number?
Obviously,
are you
a large
talking
number
10
of them
out
have
of 1,000, or are you talking, I'm just trying to get
Well, I just would say, and if Alicia were sitting here and you could hear her, she would say that you are weaponizing a horrific murder to smear 11 million people.
That is a laughable assertion. What Joe Biden is doing is weaponizing the entire government.
How is it a laughable? It's literally spot on exactly what they're doing.
Let you go, Dr. Roberts. I do want to ask you about abortion because it is a issue that is at the top of mind for folks all over this country right now, waiting on a case from the Supreme Court, EMTALA. In Louisiana, in places all over this country, abortion care is unavailable to people that may need it. You in the organization in this plan talks about changing the Department of Health and Human Services to the Department of Life. Do you think that women in America should be able to get an abortion if that is what their doctor says they need?
How is that not what it is already? The Department of Health is basically the department of making sure people live a better, longer, and fuller life.
Abortion's not health care.
Yes, it is.
Find it really interesting.
I'm glad you find it interesting. Nobody gives a shit how interesting you find it. It's fucking healthcare. It involves the health of either the mother or the child or both. So, healthcare.
If not worse, that you wouldn't support the change of the department name to the Department of Life. I thought we were all.
Thank you so much, JD. I appreciate you.
In support of life. We believe eminently in women's rights, and particularly women's rights in the womb. And
women's rights in the womb. Vanilla Mengele. That is a fucking good one. Vanilla Mengele. Yeah, dropping bombs. Let's go. Oh, Leah, what do you got for me? What do you got for me? I have 7 friends who have been murdered, all by U.S. citizens. I was gang raped at 13 by a white U.S. citizen. My dad was an immigrant and worked to earn his citizenship and serve in the military. I am terribly, terribly sorry for everything that you had to endure in that. I do appreciate you making, bringing that up and basically proving the point that it's not black or brown people that you have to feel, more afraid of in society. Statistically, you have to feel more safe around them if we're going by the numbers in the United States of America. But again, thank you. So sorry that you had to go through all that.
So the real question that you should be asking.
I just want to know.
T-minus 10 minutes, by the way.
If I may, though, because I do ask a question
talking
too.
about the people
I just
who
want to
are
know, do you
supporting
believe
legislation that abortion can happen until 3 days after the person's born? This is
no.
an absurd framing by this network.
It is an absurd framing. It is. And the fact that you just came on here and so passionately spit out absolute nonsensical bullshit convinced absolutely nobody, at least in my chat. I know that.
That is an absurd assertion. As a person with an actual womb, I'm telling you that does not happen.
So
but let me just back up.
Legislators in California,
do you
Virginia,
all,
New York, who
Dr. Roberts,
filed this bill.
Does Heritage and Project 2025 believe that a woman should be able to have an abortion if her doctor says that she needs one? It's a yes or no question.
Abortion is not health care.
So
abortion is the
no?
murder of a human being.
All right.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, I disagree thoroughly.
If the doctor tells the mother that, listen, this fetus is non-viable. Not only is it non-viable, if you continue to have this in your body, you are putting yourself at a substantial risk of not only long-term and severe harm to yourself, but that could also include a death. So somehow in their brains, that is not health care for the doctor to tell a mother that they could possibly die because of what is inside of them and what has any number of things that could have taken place with the fetus or with the mother herself that would affect the pregnancy. So it just, it's disgusting. It's gross. I'm glad that my chat is, as I always say, smarter than I am and know what clips to look for. Again, when it's tough, when sometimes you tend to be a little tunnel visioned when you're looking for stuff for the show and stuff that people would like. So that was an interview that I missed. I did not see that one, which is why I didn't really understand what the chat was kind of referencing at first, and then I kind of figured out what was going on after that. So let me get rid of that. Maybe this will run a little smoother. Did you guys see the? Do I have time? We got 8 minutes. We got 8 minutes. I'm gonna fucking go for it. I'm gonna see what the fuck happens. I'm gonna I'm gonna see what happens. I guess I don't know. We'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. We will find it. But did you see the most useless video I have ever seen in my life? Did you see the video of that CNN put out, pretty much reenacting what happens with the mic? CNN debate microphones. This might be the dumbest thing, but I think there's a reason that they did this. Let's see here. I don't know if I'm going to find it in time, but it's pretty stupid. Basically, I think they did it. Well, anyway, I'll explain it because I don't feel like searching for the whole thing. I'll explain it. Basically, but the two CNN guys go on and they basically reenact what it's going to sound like if, for some reason, the other candidate whose mic is not on were to attempt to overspeak the candidate that their microphone is on. And I swear on my life they did this just for Donald Trump. Just to say, listen, Donald, we know you're going to try it anyway. This is what it's going to sound like if you do try it. You're really not going to get your point across anyway. There's nobody in the crowd that's going to maybe hear it off mic. So that's not going to help you. So don't even try it. So I swear they did that just for Donald Trump. And again, there's been a lot of noise being put out about Joe Biden on fucking Red Bull, Monster energy drinks, coffee, black, 2 sugars, 1 cream, a little dose of Adderall. I don't know. There's been a million things. And what I think this is really boils down to is that Donald Trump's team and the people in his orbit and the sycophants in the government are really trying to get a message through to Trump that they do not want him to show up tonight. I don't think it has anything to do with Donald Trump not wanting to show up tonight. I don't think there's any way, shape, or any way in hell he doesn't show up tonight. I know he knows there's going to be way too many eyeballs on that television screen. The ratings, he'll be able to squawk about the ratings at his upcoming rallies. There's no way he wants to miss it. But I think his team was trying to send him a message through the media, which we know he all consumes on a regular basis, telling him to, yeah, Mountain Dew. That was a good one. So the fucking Mountain Dew. Again, like as everybody was saying, if for some reason the cure for dementia or, the cure for any cognitive declines as you get older is Mountain Dew, then I think we just solved a lot of the world's problems, because God knows there is a plentiful amount of Mountain Dew. And again, that wouldn't work either. Hi, Michael. How are you? Good to see you, my friend. I appreciate you. Linda Lou, what's happening? Hi, Linda. Jeremy, what's going on? Semantic Romantic. Gino. Heavy Sleeper, what's going on? Joy Fox, Mende. All right, let's check in here. I don't know what's going to happen here. Could be anything. I'm going to see if I can. What happened here? All right, see, I'm going to do this. Hi, Linda Blanton. Oh, thank you. What was that? 10 gifted? Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. If you haven't yet, top out, hit the like button, share the stream out. I think we're going to just go for it and see what happens. If CNN really wants to come after a channel with fucking 5,000 subscribers because they streamed the presidential debate, then fucking so be it, I guess. Because I do think it's that important. All right, don't get slow on me now. Hey, brother, I told Harold earlier, what do you don't like? As I say it, of course, somebody texted me to say, will likely give you a copyright strike as CNN is quite brutal with these. Craig Brewers, these things. So use the only stream that won't do that to you. C-SPAN doing a simulcast of the debate, only when allowed by CNN. Much love, my man. Fuck, I don't know what that means. YouTube will likely give you a copyright strike, as CNN is quite brutal with these things. So use the only stream that won't do that to you. What stream is that? C-SPAN? Is that what I'm getting at? Is that what you're getting at? Let's see here. C-SPAN. See, I had the fucking mentality up until about 5 seconds ago. Let's see here. CBS, C-SPAN. Fuck. I don't know what to do, my friends. I don't know what to do. At the stage. Linda, thank you again for the 10 gifted. Very much appreciated. Especially if I'm gonna get strike for doing this. Why is the background all fucked up? Let's see here. Oh man, I don't know what. I mean, I don't have any strikes in my record yet, so maybe I can afford one. What do you guys think? No, I have the sound off. There's no sound on it yet, just so you know.
American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
A look back at the 2020 presidential debate, the first one that took place in Cleveland. Now we are just about 2 minutes away from tonight's 2024 presidential debate. We'll try to get in David, who's in California, voting for a third-party candidate. There will only be 2 candidates on the stage tonight. David, what do you want to hear from them?
I want to hear to shut the border and quit letting these people in our country. And because there's no way that these people that's coming into our country illegally and stuff is going to get jobs, be able to pay for their rent, their food, their insurance, their clothes, and everything else to live except through us.
This says C-SPAN 2. Should I not be on C-SPAN 2? Should I be on C-SPAN 1? Don't risk it, Brian. Fuck. Should I be on 1, or are they going to cut to it in a minute? Christ. This had debate coverage, though. See, that's C-SPAN 2. That's PBS, C-SPAN Now. This is what it says. Live simulcast. 41,000 watching, so I'm going with this one. Oh, it's not though, huh?
And is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the 2 candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off.
I hope you know how hard this is going to be for me not to like say something, want to say things.
At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates. That was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, childcare, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. That Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Under
Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, kill three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits. They're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing. when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see. But before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next month. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. They spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that. And he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
All righty. The first 52 minutes of the debate are over. What are we thinking? How are we feeling? How are we feeling? Joe needs some tea with some hot honey. Yeah, I hate it's that raspy voice, but what are you gonna do? He fights through it. What do I got for notes just on the first? Hold on, let me see if I can mute this for a sec. Dun, dun, dun. Just anybody that's oh no, I don't want to pause it. That's exactly what I don't want to do. One sec. All right, so I'm just gonna mute it. I'll mute that. Anybody that's got their eye on that, just make sure that I don't miss it when it comes back on. Big Steph says, all right. I'll give you my honest opinion here. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I do think President Biden has been struggling a little bit. I think it might be one of those situations where he has so much information on his mind from preparing for this that he kind of doesn't know what to point to or what to pull from. I don't like how there's been no fact checks or pushback. I don't like how they're saying basically just thank you to whatever Donald Trump says, like it has any basis in reality whatsoever. What else did I write here? It took Joe Biden far too long, in my opinion, to call Donald Trump a convicted felon. I think it was at 9:44, so 44 minutes basically into this debate it took before he called him a convicted felon. So I would have liked to have seen that come out a little sooner and make that really known to the American people. I don't know. I think I don't like the way CNN's handling this. I think they're trying to be too. I think that they're once again overcompensating for everybody thinking that they're partisan and that they're overcompensating to make it try their hardest to make it seem like they're right down the middle and that they're not going to go after Trump for anything that he's been saying. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Chris says he should have opened with Trump being a convicted felon, dropped the ball on that. I very much agree. If not opened with it, make it one of your first. Let him know the choice right now the American people have is between me, who's spent 50 years in politics serving the American people, or a convicted felon, adjudicated rapist, and just go down the line. That's how I would have come out, but I guess we're just two sides of the same coin, I would say. Let's see. Pierre says CNN probably decided against fact check because they would have stopped Trump every 5 seconds. Not so much stopping him, or you could do the on-screen fact check, or you could just, like I said, when they wrap up and the mic cut, say, okay, you said this, that's not true. Here's your time, President Biden, to go against what you just heard. You don't have to stop him. You can let him say what he wants. Just make sure that the American people know afterwards that what they said was absolute fucking horseshit. Let's see here. Coming back. Sorry.
the segregation that exists among
Sorry.
these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation that passed, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back, 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including minority communities. Inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump, almost every police group. And what he's done to the Black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities where I funded them and got them all funded. And the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left, President Trump. Will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We've not able to, the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where I talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. It's just, he just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up, go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make childcare more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call it, that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, et cetera. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie, that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment, because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad.
Answer the fucking question.
Gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
All right, a little stronger there. I'll say a little stronger there. A little stronger there on that second, I don't know what you call it, after the first commercial break. Coming back from the first commercial, a little stronger showing from Biden, I will say. Obviously, Donald Trump once again somehow managing to avoid questions, even though they are being asked 3 and 4 times. Um, I still think I still don't like the maybe it's the format. I don't know. It just seems like it's going rather quick, and it doesn't give a lot of room for add-ons as far as more than just the question is asked. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Biden could hit Trump with, but he's just not being asked about it. And with the time limits, it would be strange for him to interject it without it being asked. You know what I'm saying? So I think maybe the format was trying to cut back on that. I don't know, but it just there's a lot of stuff that isn't being asked. Obviously, that Biden could go after Trump, and I don't think he has the opportunity to. He's been cut off a few times. I've noticed. I don't know what the fuck that's all about. At least let them finish the thought in his head. What's going on? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the format thus far. I do think Joe Biden's performed better as this has gone on. Again, we have to keep a few things in mind that he's always had the lifelong stutter. Obviously, he's let's face it, getting on in years, so he's not going to be as spry. And again, he's more of an older style politician. He's gonna stick to the question as much as possible. He's going to you see how he's respectful when the time's up and the moderator starts talking. Joe Biden will stop speaking as not to cut the moderator off because he's just a respectful person. Donald Trump obviously doesn't worry about that. I do like the fact that you can tell when, even though we can't hear what Biden is saying, when Trump is speaking, you can tell that Trump can hear him. So it does get Trump to react no matter what, even if we can't hear what Joe is saying. I like that he's laughing in the background. I like that he's making comments to Trump in the background. I think that's what he needs to keep doing because it gets Trump off of his original thought, whatever dumb thought he was originally coming up with, and it gets him. He doesn't like being made fun of. No authoritarian, no dictator likes being made fun of. So I think that's a good strategy to look back on when Biden's people are looking at this. I don't think either candidate is really killing it. Let's say that's just my opinion. I think Joe Biden has obviously done better than Donald Trump. Just in answering the questions, B, with the facts that he's bringing and not just straight up lies. Donald Trump seems to be getting away with a lot of fucking lying in this with zero check and zero fact checking, which I think is a shame in a presidential debate of this
waiting for the CNN
magnitude
debate between President Biden and former President Trump to resume. A reminder that we will get your reaction.
Oh, thank you, Foggy. I appreciate you guys. And anybody that's throwing a super chat or super sticker or memberships, I'll be thanking you guys, obviously, at the end of this.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal deficit debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Well, then, I think, right? Yeah, they just cut away. They just cut away. All right, so I know. Oh, let me get rid of this first. Take that down. I'm going to put that in the background. I'm going to do a little bit of this. It's just me. How's everybody doing? Did we make it through? I appreciate you guys for joining me. There's roughly 1,200 people in here, so thank you guys for sticking it out, basically. I mean, it's for crying out loud. I feel like it went rather quick, but let me hit you. Just give me your thoughts and what you guys are thinking and feeling right now before. I know Hal said he's going to probably do something after, so I don't want to keep you guys too long. So what are you guys thinking? What are you thinking? I could watch, not listen. I need to get drunk. Wow. I didn't learn anything different. Let's see here. What else we got? Joe is nervous and thinking too much, says Lisa. CNN is already shit-talking Biden. Uh-oh. Christ, how the hell are they already doing that? Or was I behind a little bit, maybe? Maybe I was behind. Slow start, but a kick at the end. I think the middle segment was Biden's strongest. Again, if I'm just being honest, which I am honest with you guys, I think the ending was shit for Biden. I think he didn't bring up a few good things that you guys mentioned. He didn't bring up. He didn't bring up Project 2025. Oh, thank you, Barbie. He didn't bring up abortion at the end to remind men and women. So I don't know. I think in the end, if I was to raise one hand to the other, I would give it to Joe Biden. I think that this could have been a slam dunk, and I just don't think it was that slam dunk. Um, I that's just my opinion of it. Maybe other people watching it may have a different opinion of it. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I'm not saying we lost any ground. I just don't think we gained as much ground as we should have tonight with all the accomplishments, with all the negativity, with all the court cases, with all the shit surrounding Trump. Um, that's just my opinion. Peter, yeah, Biden obviously didn't sound great, which I don't think helps to the appeal of the whole, the ageism and ableism and shit that's going around for Biden. I just don't. Again, I hate to bring it up and I hate to say it, but optics is a huge part of being the president of the United States. It just is. It's a lot of the people in this country just literally that's what they go by on the president. That's literally all they know of the president is basically optics and what they see of him on news clips, and that's how it used to be. So like I said, I'm not knocking Biden. I'm just like I said, I was kind of hoping with the preparation of him at Camp David that we're maybe gonna get a little more out of him. I can't knock him for his voice being raspy. If that's what it was, that's what it was. I would have rather obviously seen a not you know I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to speaking right after it's tough because I kind of have to think about it and watch it back. I mean, I have a lot of the problem. A lot of the problem I have is with CNN themselves and the way this was formatted. I don't know. I just there was something about it that was off. You know what I mean? It didn't really do anything for anybody. You know what I mean? It didn't. I don't know. Neither candidate seemed to come out doing anything. Um, I think it's not wrong to bring up that we didn't see too many of Donald Trump's typical word salads. Not that he was given much time to actually get into his word salads. I mean, I know he dodged the questions and had a few rants in there that kind of went nowhere. But I don't know. It just something was off about it tonight. What do we think? Again, what are you guys thinking? I'll hang on until like either Hal pops on or you guys tell me that Hal's on or whatever. Because like I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Let's see. Loquera. What are you saying, Loquera? What do we got? I hope Hal doesn't run it. What do you mean? Oh, like run it back. I see what you're saying. Run it back. No, I think he was just kind of give his highlights, lowlights, and what he thought of the overall feel of it. I think is what he was going to do. Don't hold me to that. It's going so fucking fast. There's a lot of people in here. I'm trying to get no fact checking. That's another thing. I mean, again, like I said, you don't have to cut it. I'm not asking you to cut the people off. You know, let them finish whatever they're gonna finish, and then have somebody standing by. I mean, they have a whole team of people. It doesn't have to be Jake Tapper sitting there on fucking Google himself, figuring out what was lies and what wasn't. What the people saying. They get a whole fucking team of people. They could probably run it through AI. Honest to God, and in some way come out with what they just said was a lie. Either that or Jake Tapper and Dana Bash should have this down pat as the people responsible for moderating this debate. They should know their facts well enough to fact check at least a few of the things off the top of their head. I mean, I don't like how they just said, okay, thank you to everything. It just made everything, it kind of gave the air of something being reputable about what Trump was saying, basically. You know what I mean? I didn't like that. So, let's see here. Let's see here. Text Hal link he wants to pop on. Oh, he's gonna pop on here? Oh, that'd be fucking sweet, huh? That'd be fucking sweet. Let me see if I can do this. Copied. That's the best way to do this. I'm gonna see if I can do this. You guys just bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves about the debate. And I'll do. Give me a sec. Give me a second. Do this. Let me go to here. Talk amongst yourselves. Have a cigarette. Smoke it out. Smoke it out. Here, I'll be curious to find out if he has the same or any of the same thoughts or feelings that I had. I'm going to send myself the same thing. Yes, compose. Okay, there it is. To me, I'll have to send myself an email. That way I can get it on my phone. Subject, link. Put the link in here. Paste. And now it should pop up on my phone. There it is. Copy. I hope I'm getting good information and I'm not just making myself look like an arsehole. All right, it's sent. Link is sent. Link is sent. Where was I? Oh, fact checking. Yeah, I don't, like I said, you don't have to stop the candidate, but I mean, at least, okay, this is what they said that was just a factually incorrect, fucking objectively false. That way, the American people don't have to go out themselves. Who, again, we aren't the best researchers. You know what I mean? So if we aren't told right away what the fuck is the deal, then we don't know. We have a tendency to get overwhelmed because you don't know what's true, or at least that as far as send me. Okay. Stop yelling at me, everybody. Stop yelling at me. I'm trying. So, again, what are you thinking? Turpy says that was required after each speaker if they told falsehoods. What in past debates you're saying, or it should have been, or I'm assuming I missed something that you said before on that, but it should be required, in my opinion. It should be required that the American people get what's true. I mean, again, how many Donald Trump got away with saying tonight two things that are hugely fucking untrue. That Democrats are comfortable, not only comfortable with, but are performing abortions all over the place, late term abortions, even after the baby is born. Bullshit. And then the dumping their prisons and insane asylums into our country. Just objectively false, nonsensical bullshit. Joe Biden did call out saying that there was no data to support it. I mean, I think I would have come out a little more strongly against it, just calling it absolute nonsense. I know I'm not the same type of guy Biden is, so I can't expect him to, reply the same way I am. But for a guy that we've heard reports of him being extremely feisty behind the scenes, using F-bombs and speaking in a different way than he does on stage, I want that to come out. I'm sick of this, playing by the rules while the other guy has no rules to play by, and us being governed in a box while the other guy has somehow busted open this box and is fucking trampling all over it, and we're playing by rules that the other guy is not playing by. I don't know. I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm looking out. I'm looking out. I'm looking out. Let me make sure I get. Do I get something for? Let me see if I can add this while I'm waiting. Add this while I'm waiting. I feel like it just went by really fast. That's all. I feel like I'm gonna do this one. I think it's this one. Can I add that at the same time though? I don't know if I can though. That I'm gonna say that's not gonna work. I'm no engineer, Turpy. You might have to help me out on this, but I'm just gonna assume that this probably isn't gonna work. So I'm gonna get rid of that one. Okay, let's try that one again there, son. What are you doing? What are you doing, Cotton? This is usually where Hal's sitting in the background. I'm talking to myself like an asshole. All right, let's see this one. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. So I'm just going to test it out. Yes, that looks better. All right, we're all set and ready for him. I feel bad. I hope I'm not like stepping on toesies here. I know he wanted to do something afterwards, and I was just going to try to get off as quick as possible while thanking everybody. But if you can hop on, that would be amazing. But again, let's get back to the chat. Trump is a bully. Boston Brian not banging with the aesthetics. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. And don't thank me for the aesthetics. This is Mel's doing. Honestly, I'd be sitting here in a fucking. I'd be sitting here just. You'd be seeing green behind me, and that'd be about it. Would be my setup. But she was awesome enough and nice enough and creative enough to come up with these backgrounds. Do show hair, perhaps. We're all jacked up. I know. That's what I mean. Everybody's got this. I want to know how everybody's feeling, and it's tough because the chat's going so fast, and I don't know if you're talking to me, you're talking to other people in the chat, and I just missed it. It's not easy. Typically, there aren't that many people. Right now, we got 620 on Twitter, 453 on YouTube, and 61 on Twitch. How the fuck do we have more on Twitter watching right now than we do on YouTube? That's fucking wild. Well, thank you. If you haven't yet, make sure you hop out and hit the like button, share it out. That way, when Hal comes, we have a somewhat normal crowd that he's used to. I know. We'll get there one day, and he's got the big numbers that's going on daily, but we'll get there someday. I'm already getting text. I'm already getting text about the stepping on toes. No, I know. I'm only kidding. I just want to make sure I wasn't. To be honest, chat can get much fat. No, I understand. I'm just not used to it. You know what I mean? I'm small potatoes here. Just small potatoes. Just starting out, really. Just starting out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, there seems to be the fact checking seems to be a theme in the chat from what I'm seeing. Treva, I think Boston Brian won this hands down. Figures. My most popular stream is when I don't say anything. I don't know how to. I'm not sure really how to accept that. To tell you the truth, I don't know how to take that. The most popular stream so far, as far as numbers watching concurrently, I would say it's the one where I just shut up and sat back. Great, thanks guys, I appreciate you. Oh, somebody's popping in. I hear something popping. Oh, there he is. Look at this handsome bastard. I'm gonna do this.
Put me in there, and then do this and do this. Hey,
name Coach. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I obviously there's a lot of emotions about what we just saw. And I'm seeing it everywhere, right? I'm sure you are too.
Well, hit me right off the bat with your feelings, please. What are you feeling?
All right. I tell you what, I think the first flubs were really rough for Biden when he, because he was. Here's what happened. This is clear. Like if you follow the Twitter feed from Biden campaign, he had statements he was going to tee up, and then they had the sort of tweet ready to go when he gets to that point. So he was kind of following a script, and you could tell by his he kept going number one and number two. He was doing his breakdown of those things. He was making his debate notes and that kind of stuff, which trying to stick to that too much, I think ate into his concentration, ate into his comfort level. And I think it was a mistake as far as how they, sort of prepped him. The interesting
thing was,
format
didn't help that either because he only had so much time, and
Yeah, that doesn't bother me so much. It's again when Biden, Biden was at his strongest a couple of times when he was just directing one particular moment on stuff. The idea that there's this kind of flash follow-up on policy. There's so many policies. It's a juggle. And you could tell he was actually trying to do it. Whereas Trump was just stump speeching. And to some degree that will benefit him with a crowd because his voice was clearer and he was being stumpy. But the weird part was when they got to the golf thing and they were kind of arguing golf game, and that was the oddest moment of the whole thing, was the fact that Trump went there, like erased probably 10 of Biden's worst flubs at that point. Cause they're like, what the hell is this guy on about? Right. And ultimately it'll be a wash as far as the voters go. There'll be some people who are like, for the next 3 weeks, they're going to be, he's too old to be in office. And there'll be a story about it. He has a cold and that's what caused it or whatever, but he's fine. And then everybody's like, well, what if he gets a cold when something big is happening? And that will be the conversation for the next couple of weeks. Trump in and of itself, like,
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was surprised to see that Joe Biden like retorted with the golf stuff. Like he came back with his handicap. It's like, just let Trump talk about the golf shit and look like an asshole talking about golf shit at a presidential fucking debate. Why you would go there and talk about your vice, how you got your handicap down to a 6 or an 8 while you were vice president. Like nobody gives a shit. Like, you know, nobody gives a shit because Aaron Trump say that shit. He sounds like an idiot. So I was surprised to see him kind of retort with anything on that. So, but sorry to interrupt.
Well, no. I agree. I think they also you could see two strategies happening that he was trying to stick to. And it was Bob Cesca tweeted early that he was overcoached, and he's absolutely right. And so they spent, I would argue, too much time kind of prepping for this when they didn't need as much. Trump was just going to come out and say his blather and his bullshit, and that would be that. And Biden was going to come out and kind of like bang him with facts. Which is in this, they were like, okay, this is that kind of format. This will be like an old fashioned debate where, a gentleman debater hitting the facts against this like pugilist moron. And that was the strategy. And they kind of overcommitted to that strategy.
They got too cute with it. They got too fancy. They, you know what I mean? Instead of just coming out and laying down the facts with the ammunition that they have laying in their lap, not only with the accomplishments of the Biden administration, but also with the faults and the negativities and the cases surrounding the Trump and Trump's organization. I think you're right. I think it was absolutely trying to be too scripted, and it just his first flubs kind of threw him off, and that kind of threw off the rest of the. I think the second segment was his strongest, and I was a little, I don't know, shocked or I was disappointed at his closing. He didn't mention a bunch of important stuff that I thought he could have mentioned in that time. It wasn't very strong worded or sounding to me.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is Trump's was just kind of like a recap of sort of his last gripe that he had on his mind. There was, and I would say for both of them, there was no closing argument in this debate at all. It was very peculiar. Trump's people are going to argue they don't need a second debate. And so they're going to, after this one, they're going to say he won because he was loud, and they're going to argue that we don't want another one. And the Biden people can say, oh, he's just, he's afraid to argue on the facts, and Biden had a cold, and that's that. And, that lead up, whatever, that we went. Yeah.
Another thing is Biden is inherently bad with numbers. You know what I mean? So to stick him out there and have him try to recite a ton of these numbers, I mean, he's bad with million and billion and mixing them up, which is whatever it is, what it is. But you'd think the people surrounding him would try to give him talking points that don't so much involve specific, very specific numbers that he has to remember.
Right. Well,
what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that's playing into the ages thing. I think that's what they're trying to do, is like, you need to show your command of numbers. One of the best things about the last debate in 2020 was when he cited the 114,000, I think it was, uncapped wells part of it, which was one of the he's got that on the top of his head, and Trump has no numbers on the top of his head. He's just like best of whatever. I will say that on retrospect, because watching it, we're all tense and we're going, oh, come on. I have a feeling on the second watching, which is not what you get. You got to, nobody gets a second chance at a first impression. It won't be as tense in those moments, right? And because they seem like they're going on forever. And Trump gets, again, I have to say, Biden in this position where he had a raspy voice from the start, clearly. I was expecting him to clear his throat, and he never did.
I know, I was too.
It was clearly something going on with his throat. For the whole thing. So he was very soft-spoken during it, which will, again, be one of their things. Like he had a cold and, he had laryngitis and he was dealing with that. And, we're dealing with a lot of stuff. And he was up last night talking to overseas. Well, there's a lot.
Which might explain the whole Camp David week, too, trying to rest him up for,
Right, because he was sick. Right, as opposed to prepping. Right, which is entirely possible. That said, he gave Trump such a layup with that, the early flubs and the soft voice. And I'm amazed that Trump fucked it up, that he still got flustered and still like we had H2O and we bought a certain kind of dog. And like, he still managed like these, like Biden was trying to speak too fast. And he was like, am I running out of time? He was very aware of the 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a long fucking time. Ask any open micer. But it feels like a short time when someone describes it to you. If you tell somebody you got 2 minutes to tell me what you're doing, in your mind, you're thinking 90 seconds. And I got to get it clear in the first 45 seconds. That's how you're thinking about it. And you
Well, not only that, but they were cutting them off so cleanly without letting them finish their thought that you want to make sure that you finish your whole thought and not leave it hanging where your strongest point, your last statement never gets to be heard because they got cut off. So I'd rather have it where they say, okay, you get another 30 or 40 seconds. Do you want to say anything else type thing than, have it get cut off because Biden's a nice guy. Like he will stop when Dana Bash or Jake Tapper started to speak.
Before
you know what I mean?
Other debates. Yeah. In 2020, that happened in the debates as well. There were the points where he seemed sort of at his weakest to the Trump world is when he was being deferential to to whoever was there.
Like, because he did that whole thing tonight where he kind of froze where Dana Bash started talking. I'm sure right wing will try to spin that into something,
Right. And Trump's whole thing about making faces during the debate will carry it. And by the way, they're going to be printing shots of Biden flustered at the end of things. That's going to be their primary focus for the next 6 weeks until
he gave him shots.
Trump's
though.
conviction.
Let's be honest. He gave them a few shots by him looking down some of the time. That's a couple of times in the chat. I wanted to write, "Look up, Joe. Look up." You know what I mean? Look at the camera.
Right.
Because he was giving them what he's doing is he's thinking about what Trump's saying at the time, kind of jotting down what he wants to rebut. And I understand that, but he has to understand how he's being portrayed on camera.
Yeah,
I think a little more.
I agree. Not as media savvy about it as he should have been in that regard. And again, and you'll see this if there is a second debate. You'll see Chin Up Joe, and he'll only respond to the last thing Trump said because that's what he should have done. Like, go in there, whatever the topics are, have your talking point. And don't rush it. Instead of having 3 points, have one. Just talk about that one full point. And I think the only real the biggest loss, I think there was obviously again the soft voice and the stammer at the beginning was going to be rough. But at the end, he should have hit the Roe v. Wade aspect of it, harder. That should have been his closing argument. And it's going to be there. And by the way, the law part of it is still going to be there. They're still going to push it out. And, the viewership and all that kind of stuff will play a part in this. People will make a decision about him being old and all this. That's going to be the story for the next 24 hours. And everybody's going to be wigging out that he's too old, blah, blah, blah. That in and of itself will fade as soon as Trump has another blather fest when he gets sentenced. And Biden has another, can get out there and give a speech or something like that where he's, back together, as it were. It'll be less of a thing, but they're going to use this. They're going to definitely use this, for
I can't, knowing how important the first debate is if there are going to be a string of debates, and if not, how important the one and only debate is, why Roe v. Wade would not be the main focus in the closing is beyond me. I have absolutely no idea or reason for it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll tell you exactly why. All the polls going around right now that the economy is the most important thing on people's minds. The economy is a very numbers heavy topic. If you actually have successes, it's not if you don't. If you're Trump, you can just go, "We had the greatest economy," which is BS. But you can say it a bunch of times and people will fondly remember that life was easier before COVID, not during COVID or how you handled it. Not that we were headed into a recession before COVID. They're not going to remember that. So what he can say is we had the best thing ever and we had the best thing ever, which is not true at all. And Biden's best moments were, there's not a single, that was, I've never heard so much malarkey in all my life. It's all lies. Every time he would break away from what Trump said, he's like, that was just all lies. That was his best moments. But his transition from the idea that blah, 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 when he's trying to get his thoughts together for where he wanted to go first, came across as an in that regard. Don't bother to say it, Just grab whatever he's doing. And again, they had loaded it seems like they had preloaded tweets to go with his talking points because they were coordinating this. And you can see him pop up in Twitter right at the, almost before in some cases, right?
Right.
And that's not the way you do a debate. It's a way you manufacture hit lines for ads later because you don't think anybody's going to watch the debate. And that's not how it was going to work, in that regard. And I think watching, again, his soft voice was probably the biggest liability right out of the gate, but there was that, again, he's only 4 years younger than me and completely what was it? The quote was, he's 4 years younger than me and completely, I forget.
You called him incompetent, I think he said.
Yeah. He's like incapable of, right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I should be able to quote it directly if it was launched well, but partly it's just, is sort of breathiness. So those should land better in that regard.
You mentioned earlier that, if there is another debate that Biden would focus more on, focusing on the last thing that Trump was saying, right? Where I think that ties in a lot tonight on how the fact checking or lack thereof was being done in Biden knowing that and then feeling the need to try to rebut every single one of the lies that may have been in the previous talking point.
That's what a Gish Gallop is for. And that's all Trump does is Gish Gallop. And the problem with a Gish Gallop is that it's a Gish Gallop. You have this issue where they say 7 lies, you rebut 1, and it gives the listener the assumption that the other 6 must have been true. That's the purpose of it. And
but do you think CNN failed a little bit in their responsibility in making sure the American people got factual information and aren't fending for themselves, so to speak? I mean, my chat, at least, it was huge in the chat saying, "Where's the fact checks? Where's the fact checks?" And I was saying, listen, you don't have to stop the candidates. You can at least let them finish what they were saying, and you should have a team or an AI or something set up at this point where you can be like, okay, at least this is factually incorrect. This is objectively not true. And Biden, would you like to respond? Type thing, and that's at least the American people would know that much. We didn't even get that. We didn't get anything on screen. I mean, even an on-screen pop-up type thing wasn't allowed, I guess. I don't know. It seemed like like a lot of what Trump said, even though we know it's stumpy, other people that aren't as politically active and involved and see what he says that much, it's going to look that much better to them because there was no, rebuttal, as Donald Trump would say.
Right. Well, that's why I think Biden's, their comeback on each chunk of it was just all lies. I think was a smart move in general. What I would have preferred was instead of saying the idea that and trying to transition from what they actually asked him and pivot into this when they ask you the same question after they've done this. The better way to handle somebody who's Gish Galloping is just go, that's all lies. Can you remind everybody what the question was again? Because I want the viewers to know exactly what you asked him. I can answer your question, but say it again exactly as you want it, and I'll give you my answer. And that gives you a moment to think about it and gather your thoughts if you need to, because that was just a friggin' mess, especially like climate change. Climate change, Biden gave a solid answer on climate change, but with a scratchy, breathy kind of voice, and it just doesn't sound commanding, right? There were a lot of like eggs that Trump tried to throw. And again, talk about a dude who can fuck up a free lunch. But there was so much of like, he could have dunked on Biden so hard with the stammers that he had. There was one moment where he's like, I don't even know what he said or something like that. But yeah, go ahead.
Will he get credit from some people though? Say independently. Will they give him credit? Will they think he was more restrained in a way for not doing that? Do you know what I'm saying? I know we're not going to think that, but could that have been a tactic, you think? I doubt so. I doubt it.
No, he did not. I mean, obviously, there's that idea that you don't kick somebody when they're down. Trump's never been above that in his life. I think he was trying to he was too busy like listening and trying to figure out what he was going to say next. Right? That's the issue. Right. I personally think again, policy stuff will wash its way out and there'll be the arguing on both sides of this. But I was amazed. I actually was genuinely amazed that especially early on, Trump started to fade halfway through and Biden kind of got his steam halfway through. So there's this sort of transition over, but they were both kind of a mess. Like overall, both candidates were a mess. Trump was, stump speech and lying his ass off, and Biden was trying to get too much stuff out and he had a raspy voice. Like those two things are going to be more like a criticism of these are the two candidates that are blah, blah, blah. That'll be the bigger narrative across the board. Will it give RFK Jr. a bump? No. It's not going to help him at all. And again, if he was on there, his voice would have made Biden's voice sound better. And he sounds like that all the time. So,
do you know what else looked to be effective that Biden did? And I don't know if he meant to do this or if it was just a natural reaction that he had. Yeah, that was a good line. And just not laughing and audibly laughing and then saying things, even though his mic couldn't be heard, even though we couldn't hear him, Donald Trump could still hear his responses, right? Yes. Or he could still look over and hear him giggling or laughing at. And then there was a few times that took Donald Trump off his game, off his answer. And he, he looked over at Joe, and then he, that's when it gets him off. So I think that's something that, looking back on it, if I was Biden's team, I would say, okay, even though the American people aren't really hearing what you're saying, we can see you on camera. We can see if you're laughing and you think something's just ridiculous just by your laugh and the facial expressions you're making. So keep getting under his skin, you kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck it.
Well, yeah, and again, I think in the contrast, the Biden team and Biden in particular are trying to be the reassuring candidate. Subtle and smart and real accomplishments. And I do a debate taking notes and this like an old fashioned 60s debate, and it isn't necessary. That's not, people already got that part of it. What you got to come out there and Biden's thing should have been just being relaxed with his own accomplishments. That's it. The two things that they should have focused on was, don't try to stack a bunch of things. Again, I would argue that, and this will probably happen at the next debate, because maybe Trump will be itching to do the next one. And that's when the shit will hit the fan. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, there's a point where a soldier has just enough ammunition that he needs to go into battle. And then there's a point where he has so much ammunition that it weighs him down and he can't make it into battle. And tonight, I just think that Joe Biden had too much ammunition and he didn't know what to pull from or where. And again, the way it was formatted, in my opinion, didn't really give him the opportunity to kind of expand on, giving talking points that weren't necessarily asked in the specific question. You know what I mean? Because they hit the certain times and the mic getting cut off right at the end.
Yeah. I think there's also, again, working expectations. And I think, I being an actor, I've been in situations where there are too many development executives and not enough writers in the room. And you're getting dumb ideas from around the table. And it's hard to parse the good ones from the bad ones until somebody, on your own. In this particular instance, I think one of the notes he was probably getting to is that you're old and you're slow, and they're going to go with slow. So if you could just prattle stuff out, if you can just hit him with a bunch of stuff, that's the wrong tactic in this situation. He could have paced himself slower than Donald Trump's speech, not rush it. And if you run out of time, pick it up later and go. And he literally could have come out and said, by the way, excuse my voice, I have a touch of laryngitis, but that's fine. You're allowed to do that. And that would have, by the way, that alone, I was like, I tweeted earlier, I was like, a lozenge would save this debate for Biden. But also, if he'd have just said that at the very beginning, part of my voice, I have a sore throat. That would have, that would have eliminated 80% of that issue right away. His acknowledgement. Again, this is a stand-up thing, but if you can't pull a Ted Bundy on stage. If you walk on stage with a cast on your arm, you got to make jokes about the cast, or everybody stares at it and never hears a word you're saying. And the same thing is true of Biden's raspy voice. That said, he should know this at this point, but I think there's so much, again, everybody was writing on how big this was and the pressure of it. But you could clear around the table that everybody's like, you need to like bang, 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 bang. You have all these things in your head, you know them. And I think he like tried to shove them all in, he tried to overstack the barrel, as it were, on the cannon.
Well, I think the thing I
work.
find myself saying the most when Joe Biden is talking, honestly, if I'm being honest with everybody, is just slow down. Take your time. Like, we understand, like, I don't know if that's a side effect or like, him trying to overcompensate for his speech impediment. And if it is, I apologize. I'm not trying to make fun of it, but that's what I find myself saying. It just, I would rather him make mistakes being slower and more, more easily heard and understood than being perfect, but saying everything perfect in his mind and then at really fast pace type of thing. I don't know. It just that's what I find myself saying is just slow down. You got the points, you got the facts, you have the ammunition in your belt, you have everything that you need. All you have to do is now it's just a presentation thing almost. You know what I mean? It's like you have the goods in your bag. Now you just got to figure out how to present it to the American people in a way that makes you likable and gets your point across and lets them know that you have been a consequential president. You have done. I mean, remember when Donald Trump was saying there'd be no July 4th, there'd be no Thanksgiving, there'd be no graduations, there'd be no, what happened to all that? Has anybody sent a memo or a letter at their house saying your graduation's been canceled because of Joe Biden or that type of shit?
That also goes, so that also goes to the hellscape idea that Trump went into. We're a declining nation and all this stuff. And Biden's, I think his brightest moment was, where he defended America and our military and nobody wants to screw with us, which I thought was like his best locked solid thing like that, as far as, having obviously a moment they had worked on and he recited it kind of perfectly and he meant it. That came out the best. There's so many details, like the biggest part of the Roe v. Wade flub, I thought the best is, and this should be the only thing they have to focus on, is that I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade. And there are no doctors in this country that are talking about killing a baby after it's born. This man is a maniac. That's all you had to say.
Well, that point, I was going to say, that's why I brought up that point that he got away with. I feel like, even though there was some pushback on it from Biden, I still feel like that point and the flying, people coming in from insane asylums and prisons. I mean, the fact that you can get away with saying that on CNN in a 2024 presidential debate is fucking asinine to me. It's fucking ludicrous. I mean, I know Joe said there's no data to support that, and fine, he got the pushback in to say it's ridiculous, but it's more ridiculous than what the reaction was. Like it is absurd to say. I mean, look at the population. The prison populations in Central and South America have exploded. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it just factually looking at those numbers alone can prove or disprove what the fuck Donald Trump is saying. So the fact that these news anchors were either instructed to or not able to off their own head, or they didn't have a team behind them to say, okay, I know from my reporting that I've done, I don't even need the fact checkers. That's just horse shit. And that's just ridiculous. Or at the very least, do you have any data to support that? Would have been great. And he would have had nothing to say after that. And it would have proved the same point.
Well, again, in the working of the refs before the whole debate, Trump basically guaranteed there would be no fact checking by pre-accusing them of bias. So CNN would default to not doing anything about it. Right. And Biden was so concerned about getting his facts straight in comparison that he was kind of rushing to get those things out. And he would say billions instead of millions. And then but he corrected himself. That was the other thing, is that he didn't in a bunch of these areas say, billions and stick to it. He said it. And it was interesting. He said thousands and thousands of like dead in Ukraine, for example, when tens of thousands would be the number, or hundreds of thousands would be the number. Russia's lost hundreds of thousands of people. Like, that's a shocking number. Thousands and thousands doesn't even cut it as far as the number goes. But again, it's it's a war zone, and maybe there's a reason why they're holding back their awareness of what the actual numbers are, blah blah blah. Like there's no reason for it. He could simply
I think he said
it from the
500,000,
air.
but he got cut off at the end, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
If we're talking about the same point in that one, I think he
Yes.
realized that he fucked up by saying thousands instead of the actual, tens of
He
thousands,
said
hundreds of thousands.
500,000. Yes, he did.
Right,
as they were going to the end, and it managed to get out, which is fine. But again, his voice was so worn out, they didn't get to that. Now, is there a moment tomorrow where they go, it turns out he has the flu. He's taking 2 days off. He's, the president's health is just fine, but he caught it the day before and while we were at Camp David, and he's going to be fine.
Though.
Yeah, I agree. But that's how they're going to, the spin team is going to work on that aspect of it.
But a good spin team would have done exactly what you said earlier and come out right away and said, listen, I apologize if it's a little hard to understand, if I'm a little raspy tonight. Within the last few days, I've caught this, whatever it is, throat cold or whatever you want to call it, whatever the best wording for it is, and just get it out of the way. And then it is what it is from there, right out, address it head on. That way it's not like people speculating, oh, is he got the flu? Is it COVID? Is it this? Is it that? Now you got all these idiots that are going to be speculating. And I don't know. It just, there was there's a few things that we have said just alone in this conversation that would have helped Joe Biden's night a lot. Even with the throat. Right. Even with that, working against them.
Exactly. I also think, they're, like I said, they're going to draft stuff up. The right wing are going to be dancing a jig for the next week until Trump gets sentenced. And then it's going to be, a fire in the belly moment for them. He'll probably have a big fundraiser after he's sentenced to 4 years plus, and then but it'll be held in a bait. Right.
But just get ready to see that clip of Joe Biden's first flub, that first bad one, over and over and over until you're sick.
But you're also going to see, you're also going to see like Trump stuff, like we had H2O and a certain kind of dog, and the golf stuff's going to be
sweaty
played
lip
by everybody. Because they're like, these two guys are arguing about a golf swing. Now, I personally think that, Biden knows that's a dig at Trump. And so bringing up his own golf score distracted Trump even further. He was still going back to it,
when they shut him
later.
up. Right.
Yes.
Right.
So I can see
he had him with the bag. He's got him with the bag thing. Like, I'll play you any day. You just got to carry your own fucking bag. Just shut up at that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a good comeback to whatever Trump has to say. And we all know Trump doesn't carry his own bag, so it has extra meaning for people that actually know what's going on. And like, again, he fed into it just a little too much. I was kind of holding my hand over my face when he's like, as vice president, I got my handicap down to 6. Like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't care if you could outdrive Donald Trump right now. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
The country's running smoothly. We are the envy of the world, as he said tonight. He said tonight again that there are multiple fucking presidents all over the world in huge countries, in wealthy countries that would, in a heartbeat, trade places with Joe Biden to be able to have the problems and the opportunities that we have in this nation, as Joe Biden said tonight. So,
his successes. And I think that's, when you get, there will be, in the boil down after the kerfuffle about him brain farting in the beginning or his stutter. And again, a lot of it, they will talk about how he's got laryngitis or something like that. He specifically has a throat infection, and they'll say what it is because he clearly does. He's clearly hoarse. And I would argue from either all the shit they've got going on, plus he's prepping at Camp David, he was probably talking way too much. The other thing I would say to all the public speakers out there, that whether you have acid reflux or not, if you have a big speaking engagement or a singing engagement, a little bit of an antacid before your prep session will do a lot, because as you speak a lot, you will toss stuff up, whether you have acid reflux or not, and it will eventually eat away at your vocal cords. The more you're talking, the more that will happen. And as you age, you will have more of that. That's why people get raspy voices. It's why Alex Jones sounds the way he does. He's got permanent acid reflux and he talks constantly. So that's a thing you have to be aware of, which, again, I don't know how, at this point, I don't know how much with all the shit that's going on, how much you could tell Joe about stuff. You can go, hey man, this is what you need. And Ron Klain, obviously, he's on the phone with him a lot. There are a couple of guys he talks to. You're going to see James Carville going, that's not fucking.
They brought Ron Klain in specifically to help him with the debate, as opposed to I forget what the other guy's name, but he just I'm surprised because I had heard that they brought Ron Klain in to see that it kind of went in the direction, strategically at least, not how it came across, because obviously they have no control over how Biden actually performs out there, but at least strategically and what we could actually tell from looking at it and what he said in the tweets, putting it together, and how it was supposed to kind of go if everything went according to plan. You know what I mean? So just I don't know, just there's a lot to in closing. What do you think people should kind of take away from this, and what's important, what's not important? And
I think you're going to see a lot of sliced up pieces of this from both sides. All of Fox and Gutfeld and all those people will be playing the fumbles of Biden for weeks and weeks and weeks, along with shots of him stumbling, going upstairs, and that kind of stuff. It'll be along those lines. There will be a huge conversation that the Democrats are thinking about swapping somebody out. The spin people around Biden are trying to figure out a way to nullify that talk as quickly as possible. Because again, like, it's obvious to me as a sore throat, and they couldn't punt it because it would look, some politically how it looked. They go, yeah, we want to do it this Wednesday, but we'll do it next Wednesday. You can't do it like that because it's preset in this date ahead of time. So it's just, you get what you get. Trump ultimately, though, like I said, if you look at his performance, his voice was on his side. He seemed, younger than Biden in this regard, but made as many, if not more, weird, blathery mistakes
in less
as
sense.
Biden did, just louder and effectively, And there were a bunch of weird things that he said that didn't go anywhere that deserve a lot of attention. And I have no doubt that I'm going to go through the whole thing. Like after you and I beg off, I'm going to go back and start from scratch and go over the whole thing and watch it again. And just go through what I'm seeing and talk about largely. I think there's some of what we've already.
God bless you. Watch that all over again.
Yeah. Hey man, that's how we do it. Like confront it head on.
Well, I mean, again, there are subtle things, especially while you're running a live stream, that you will pick up on the second go around and the third go around or whatever it is that you definitely, because I tend to, even if I catch a clip of my show, I'll see something that is like, like that actually happened. Like, I don't even remember that happening. Like, you know what I mean? I'm the one running the shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, so there are probably things that I've missed and little nuances to it that I haven't added into my, little synopsis of what happened, but just the major things that I've seen, I think that we lost in one regard because we had an opportunity tonight to make a fucking slam dunk. We had the ball was on the tee. There was the ball was right up by the hoop, waiting for Joe Biden to slam dunk it with his achievements and Donald Trump's shortcomings, which there are many. Right. So just I'm not saying Joe Biden lost. I just don't think we gained as many points as we should have or could have in with all things considered.
I think what you're going to hear from a lot of people is you're going to hear a lot of independents bitching about how we don't have a really good choice in this election and blah, blah, blah. That'll last about 3 weeks because those very same people, the people who would be moved by the fact that, Trump's full of shit and Biden seemed old, are going to make their decision a week before the election where, arguably Biden is back to his spry self or he isn't. And that's something, that has to be dealt with, in terms of addressing that. Right. Or that he just has to, modulate expectations about, I'm not a public speaker. This is not about my, orator capabilities. This is about my effectiveness in making decisions. And
I actually wrote that down somewhere, Hal. Like I was going to think when I came on before of what Biden should come out and talk about. And I had that written down somewhere of being like, listen, you're not electing me because I run the fastest mile. You don't elect me because I'm the best on a BMX bike. I'm not a professional stair climber, but look at my accomplishments. Does that matter? none of that matters. Look at what I've done for this country. Look at where we are in the standings as far as globally, and that should speak for itself. Yes, I'm on an age. Yes, I don't speak as well as I used to speak as well as I used to. I don't run as fast as I do as I used to, and I don't the way I walk.
My decisions are sound.
This goes along with your, going at it head on type of thing with the voice. The more you come out, it gives you a human approach too. Because how many of us know a boss or a coworker that's come to work being hoarse or had to speak at a meeting and they didn't sound perfect? Or how many times have you had to done a live show where you're hoarse from the live show the night before, or anything like that? Or how many times have you people at home fallen, tripping going up the stairs? I mean, I do it twice a day, for Christ's sakes, and I'm 38 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like we can't use these as takeaways as much as we know that I keep saying optics, as much as we don't like it, is a huge part of the job of the president of the United States. It's a hugely optics focused position. You know what I mean? As much as we don't want it to be. So the more you can combat these things head on and know what people are saying, and know that if people have a problem with your age and the clips that are being shown around, just say, listen, yes, fine, I'm on an age. I have no problem with that. I don't speak as well as I used to, and I probably didn't speak well when I was younger. So I can understand where you're going with that.
I've always been a gaffe machine. One of the things is, I've had I have a speech impediment all my life, and I've always been a gaffe machine. So these guys, but he killed in the debate against Paul Ryan. He's there were he's definitely got the skill. He had the skills at one point to deal with these kind of things. The problem is who he's dealing with Trump is such a bizarre alternate entity, and he's great at dealing with him in terms of policy. He's still flustered by that too. I'm surprised. He still gets surprisingly flustered by Trump's lies. And, like you can see when Trump's saying something and it's just an outright lie, you can see on Joe's face, he looks to I don't know if he's looking to his people or he's looking to, that's just where he's looking to the moderators. And it's just the way that the angle is on the camera. But, you can see a few times where he's like, I think he was talking about Trump said he brought down the deficit or something like that. But you can tell Biden was like, it's weird to me that he still doesn't have a direct way to deal with, knowing that a lie is going to come out, instead of being so shocked and surprised every time that the guy's like, he's not actually being a real politician this time. I think there are two things that they talked about, and this is probably a Ron Klain note, and I'll leave it on this, is that I think Ron Klain said people like it when you kind of grin at when he's full of shit. And then they're outraged at what he's saying. So show that you're outraged too. Don't be afraid to look over and go, what the fuck? The problem is when you or I look at somebody and go, what the fuck? We look like young people going, what the fuck? He looks like, where am I? And that's just what you gotta be aware of. Same thing with Trump. You know what I mean? Trump looks like a fucking toddler when he thinks he's looking tough or he's interjecting, when he's going,
he does the shoulder sway, where he does the shoulder sway. He thinks he's looking.
So I'm curious to see if on the second watch, if people feel as bad about it, because I think people put a lot of weight on it as well. There's certainly a couple of the flubs that were a big deal in the very beginning. And again, Biden's voice is the primary thing that, again, could have been addressed right out of the gate. If he'd have just said, excuse me, I have a bit of a sore throat. That would have done it. That's all you had to do.
There was really no welcoming and niceties at the beginning either. You know what I mean? No, how do you do or anything. It was straight into the questions.
Right.
No, how you doing?
That was also very, very odd. Which also, when Trump's, angry kind of energy gave him a leg up in that regard in their response. So we'll see. Anyways, I'm going to live stream the whole thing again right now so we can go over the whole thing again instead of just snippets and stuff that people will see. And I will we'll check in together. And at some point, you got to come back on my stream, brother, at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to at some point have a lot more free time to go on your stream a lot more without saying too much.
I love that idea.
I'm hoping in the near future. So I appreciate you hopping on. Thank you for taking the time out. I guess my second time watching it will be as a member of the Hal Sparks chat. So thank you, Hal. Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I shall see you soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Later, brother. And there he is, Hal Sparks. Let me get rid of his name, even though it probably helps my stream to just keep it up there because he is just such a fucking brainiac, and he's such a good guy. Let's see here. All righty then. Let's see if I can get this back here. I'm going to go back here, bring the chat up. How you guys doing? You hanging with me? So I know everybody's going to hop over there. Let me just get through the thank yous if I can before you hop out. Shanzi, Nick, Louis, 75 gram. Sheldon, 75 gram again with the $20 super sticker. Slacks, thank you so much. Annette, Shanzi again, just with a huge night. Thank you so much. I appreciate you more than anything. JD, DJ, what's that? Seneca? Sinka. DJ Sinka. Thank you so much. Ernie's mom, Kathy. Let's see, Mende, Billy, Christina, LWD with a couple membership gifts, and thanks so much. Shanzi now giving membership. She's doing it all tonight. Let's go. Let's see here. I'm gonna go with that one because it looks stupid in the background. All right, back to this. Then I'm gonna go Tanya. Thank you so much as a friggin' mod. You don't have to do that. Thank you for becoming a member for 3 months now. I appreciate it so much. Danny. Let's see. Jess. Let's see here. I'm trying to go quick so you guys can catch hell. Michael, thank you so much for the $20 super sticker. Linda again. Tabby, thank you so much. Peter, as usual, legend in the chat, mate. Legend in the chat. $50 super sticker. LWD again. Frida, Toby, Nick again. Danny again. Foggy, Nanette, Jim the Geek. Let's go, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the 10. Oh, 50 from Kaylee. How did I miss that one? Thank you so much, Kaylee. That's fucking awesome. I appreciate you. Welcome. Don't recognize the name, so I appreciate you joining me. Unless I'm just way off on that and I'm just forgetting your name, and in which case I apologize. Petrazi, Danny again. You guys are killing it tonight. Bobby, let's see here. Steven, Lisa, Sheldon, Slacks again. Catherine again. Tabby again. Missed one, became a member. Sally, Frida, and I think that's everybody. If I missed anybody, I do apologize. I was trying to get through it as fast as possible so you guys can catch Hal's rundown of everything. So we'll leave it there, guys. I do appreciate it. Time to raid Hal. If I knew how to do that, I really would. But I think just saying that you came from my stream would be enough, or came from my chat, that would be great. I'll play myself out real quick. Until next time, I'll see you guys Sunday for another episode of Blunt Politics. I'm Boston Brian. Thank you so much for watching the debate with me. Make sure you like the stream on the way out, share it. Thank you. Think about becoming a member, patreon.com, all that fun stuff, Venmo, all the fun stuff. Thank you so much to everybody, all the mods. You guys rock. You're all rock stars. I appreciate you. Everybody else in the chat are fucking fantastic. And thank you so much for spending your evening with us right here at Blunt Politics. So thank you so much, and I will play myself out if I can get to this one.
All I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets. Gettysburg, what? Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting. Never fight uphill, me boys. But it was too late. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening. It is a profound honor to be the beautiful new stadium, to be here with you. Swami Vive Kamunan Suchin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli. No words, I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid. Venezuela. Did you just see Maduro? Venezuela. It's unbelievable. Our army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat. You know what uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things. All I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water, let me drop it on the magnet. Shifting production to Thailand. Welcome to our country from the Congo. Where do you live in the Congo? We live in prison. Oh. Uphill, me boys, never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting, never fight uphill, me boys. But it was too late. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch